We need more flexibility, not more security theater. Grant's words lingered in the conference room like smoke. My name is Marcus Liu, 40 years old, lead security architect at Nexera Labs in Seattle, Washington. For 9 years, I had developed and maintained the security framework safeguarding financial data for over 300 clients. I'd watched 4 CTOs come and go. Grant Felon was the fifth, and within just 2 weeks, he had already concluded that I was the issue. These protocols are outdated, he said, flipping through my quarterly security review. We're losing deployment speed. Our competitors are moving twice as fast. I kept my tone calm. Those same competitors have also suffered data breaches. Everyone has breaches, Grant waved dismissively. It's about how you recover, not preventing them. The 6 other department leads nodded in agreement. No one wanted to challenge the new boss. No one except me. Our clients depend on us precisely because we haven't had any breaches, I said. The financial industry has distinct needs compared to the companies I've worked at before. Grant cut in with a tight smile. BlackRock Group, JP Morgan. I'm well aware of financial security demands. Marcus. What he didn't grasp was that our architecture wasn't conventional. I had crafted bespoke security layers after the board declined to fund enterprise-grade solutions. Custom firewall rules, unique IDS patterns, an internally developed access management system. All of it documented, though the documentation was thin due to lack of allocated time for thorough knowledge sharing. I'd like to walk you through why these particular. We don't have time for that today, Grant said, closing his laptop. Everyone stretched thin prepping the new client portal. Let's shelve the security talk for now. After the meeting, Diane from product development caught me in the hallway. You all right? That was brutal. I'm okay. Grant's just trying to leave his mark, she said. Give him time to find his footing. But 3 days later, I discovered my access to the security logging server had been revoked. When I inquired, help desk said it was a new directive from the CTO's office. Logs were now being consolidated into the general IT monitoring system, a system I'd flagged repeatedly as insufficient for forensic investigations. That night, I backed up all my documentation and security notes to my personal drive. No proprietary company data, just my methods, procedures, and system designs. Something in my gut told me I might need them soon. The next morning, my custom monitoring tool alerted me to 3 suspicious login attempts. Nobody else seemed to notice. I had joined Nexera after 5 years at a government contractor. Back then, Nexera was a small, hungry startup with big dreams and limited capital. I was employee number 26. Now, we had over 300 employees spread across 2 office towers. My father had his doubts when I left my steady government-adjacent role for a startup, especially in that economy. But I believed in the mission, prioritize security in financial data systems before fintech was even trendy. I accepted a pay cut in exchange for equity, betting on long-term growth. And we delivered. For years, I logged 80-hour workweeks building our security infrastructure. While others fought over budgets and hiring, I found workarounds, developing in-house solutions when we couldn't afford licensed software. The trade-off was always the same. I'd build it myself, but no time for proper documentation or training. That's a single point of failure, our former CTO, Jennifer, once cautioned. What if something happens to you? Then whoever takes over better be good at reading code comments. I joked. Jennifer understood our mounting technical debt, but shielded me from board pressures for faster rollouts. We had an understanding. I flagged risks, she translated them into business terms, and together we balanced progress with strong security. Then Nexera was acquired by Vertec Holdings. Jennifer was replaced by Grant, whose goals were unambiguous: accelerate growth, trim inefficiencies, and unlock trapped value, as he said during his company-wide intro. Within weeks, the transformation was evident. Security reviews got shortened to meet faster delivery timelines. Penetration testing was delayed, then scaled back. My team's requests for critical security upgrades were consistently deprioritized. Diane saw it too. Over lunch in the courtyard, she told me, they're pushing our sprints past capacity. QA is cutting corners just to hit deadlines. What about compliance? I asked. She shrugged. Grant says we're reinterpreting the requirements. His words, not mine. That evening, my direct report, James, stopped by my desk. Something strange, he said. They grill me about how we update firewall rules. Grant's asking why the changes take so long. Did you explain the testing protocol? I did, but he kept pushing for emergency workarounds. After James left, I sat at my desk, staring at the screen. 9 years of meticulous work, now being brushed aside for shortcuts. I could feel the seams unraveling. Then came the Thursday calendar invite. Subject, security restructuring discussion. Attendees, Marcus Liu, Grant Felon. Location, conference room B. Time, 2 o'clock. I spent the morning reviewing my dashboards one last time. Everything was functioning as designed. The custom alerting system was still scanning for anomalies. Client data silos remained properly segmented. Backup integrity tests were all passing. At 2 o'clock sharp, I entered conference room B. Grant was already there, along with Heather from HR. Marcus, have a seat, he said in a tone that was polite but hollow. Let's get to the point. We're restructuring the security team, moving toward a decentralized model. I said nothing. The presence of HR told me everything I needed to know. Your role as centralized security architect is being dissolved, he continued. We're integrating security responsibilities into each product team. Who will oversee the core security infrastructure? I asked. We're shifting to cloud-native solutions with external management, Grant explained. It's more scalable, less reliant on tribal knowledge. Tribal knowledge. My 9 years of building tailor-made defenses for client data. Dismissed as an organizational flaw. Heather slid a folder across the table. This details the severance offer, 2 months of salary, extended health coverage, and accelerated vesting of your equity from the acquisition. I opened the folder and scanned the numbers. Reasonable, even generous. This call had been made well above Grant's pay grade. He was merely the bearer of the news. We'll need your access cards and login credentials before you leave today, Grant added. James will handle the knowledge transfer over the next 2 weeks. You won't need to come in, but please remain available by phone. James doesn't know the full system, I said. No one does except me. Grant's expression tightened slightly. Everything's documented, Marcus. We've reviewed your wikis and repositories. Documented? Yes. But truly comprehending the documentation required context I'd never had the time to provide. My repeated proposals for a formal knowledge transfer initiative had been rejected by the board. Move faster, clean it up later, had been their mantra for years. Understand, I said, closing the folder. I wrote out my passwords on a notepad. Domain admin, VPN, security console, monitoring systems. 9 years of safeguarding this company's data, reduced to 8 sets of credentials. Grant nodded as I slid the notepad across the table. I know change is tough, but this is the right move for the company. I handed over my access badge and stood. I hope you're right. As I walked through the lobby, I passed the wall lined with framed accolades and press mentions. Nexera Labs, most secure financial data platform, 5 years running. My work, my legacy. I didn't feel angry, just a hollow certainty that they'd made a serious mistake. Not in firing me. Companies reorganize all the time. The mistake was assuming they understood what they were tearing apart. In my car, I shut off my phone and drove to Lake Washington. I sat by the water for an hour, estimating how long it would take for the first security failure to occur. Not if, when. 2 days later, the prediction came true, faster than even I had expected. My personal phone buzzed with messages from James. Systems acting weird. Multiple alert triggers. Can you call? I stared at the screen. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let Grant see firsthand what happens when you get a security system you don't fully grasp. But 9 years of instinct and professionalism won out. I called James. Thank God, he said, answering. We're seeing strange traffic patterns on the Eastern Gateway. The monitoring system is flagging them, but no one knows what to do. What's Grant saying? I asked. He's in back-to-back board meetings. The IT team thinks it's probably a false alarm from the automated rule updates. Automated rule updates, which I had designed to respond to evolving threat patterns. If they were triggering alerts, something was definitely wrong. Has anyone checked the second-level verification logs? I asked. Silence. The what? I shut my eyes. James, there's a secondary validation system that confirms alert patterns before raising flags. If both systems are firing, it's not a false alarm. Where do I find that? I guided him through accessing the hidden dashboard. The credentials weren't in the handover notes because it was a system I had built during a weekend hackathon 3 years ago. It had already caught 2 potential breaches since then. Oh, James whispered. Both systems are lighting up like Christmas trees. You need to isolate the eastern gateway immediately, I said. Power down the external connection and switch over to the backup line. I don't have that kind of access, James replied. Nobody gave me admin rights to the network hardware. Of course not. In their haste to push me out, they'd overlooked transferring my full range of privileges. You need to contact Grant or someone from senior IT, I said. Now, I'll try. Can you come in, just to help sort this out? I hesitated. That's not my job anymore. Please, Marcus. I don't know what I'm doing here. Part of me wanted to help. The other part knew better. Call Grant. Tell him exactly what I told you. I'll be available if he wants to reach out to me directly. 3 hours later, Grant called. Marcus, he said, his tone tense. We're having a bit of a security issue. I heard. James seems to think it's serious. Our standard monitoring isn't showing much. That's because your standard monitoring wasn't built to detect sophisticated attacks. I built a separate system for that. What do you want from me? I asked. He cleared his throat. We could use your input. Maybe a phone consult. You want me to advise on the security system you just deemed unnecessary? No one said security was unnecessary, he replied quickly. We're just restructuring the management. How's it working out so far? There was a long pause. We're prepared to pay your contractor rate for assistance. I smirked. My contractor rate is $800 per hour, 4-hour minimum, paid in advance, plus a signed statement confirming I hold no liability for outcomes. I expected pushback. Instead, he simply said, I'll have the paperwork drafted. How soon can you start? I can't, I replied. I've accepted another position. The non-compete clause in my severance bars me from accessing your systems. Now that I'm joining a competing financial security firm. That was a lie. I hadn't accepted another position yet, and the non-compete clause had exceptions for consulting work, but Grant didn't know that. Marcus, this is serious. Yes, I agreed. It is. I ended the call and turned off my phone again. Whatever was happening at Nexera wasn't my concern anymore. They had made their decision. The next morning, I checked the tech news sites out of habit. Nothing about Nexera yet, but by midday, the first headline surfaced on a cybersecurity blog. Financial data firm Nexera Labs investigating potential security incident. I had 7 missed calls from various Nexera numbers, 3 from Grant, 2 from James, 1 from Diane, and 1 from an unfamiliar number. I listened to the voicemails. Grant, Marcus, we need to talk. The situation has escalated. Call me back immediately. James, it's bad. Really bad. Someone's in the system, and we can't block them out. Please call. The final voicemail was from Stephen Wright, Nexera CEO. Marcus, this is Stephen. Whatever happened between you and Grant, we need your help right now. Our client's data is in jeopardy. Please call me directly. I sat at my kitchen table, coffee turning cold. 9 years spent building a security system, and it took less than 72 hours to be compromised after my departure. Not because the system was flawed, but because no one knew how to properly maintain it. I called Stephen back. Thank God, he answered. Marcus, we have a serious problem. I've heard, I replied. What exactly is going on? Someone's in our systems. They've somehow bypassed the perimeter defenses. Grant says they're moving between client databases, but we can't figure out how. Is the internal segmentation failing? I asked. The internal segmentation, my custom-built data isolation system, was designed to prevent lateral movement between client repositories. It would automatically trigger lockdown if it detected abnormal access patterns. Has the auto-lock engaged? I asked. Silence. What auto-lockdown? I closed my eyes. Stephen, there's an automatic quarantine system embedded in the segmentation controls. If unauthorized movement is detected, It should isolate each client database on its own. No one's mentioned any quarantine feature. Hold on. I heard muffled voices, then Stephen came back. Grant says there's nothing about auto-quarantine in the documentation. Of course not. The board had repeatedly slashed my proposals to thoroughly document the security systems. Emergency custom solution, they called it. I muttered. When they approved the absolute bare minimum budget. We'll properly document it later, they'd said. But later never came. The system exists, I said. I built it 3 years ago after the Thread bank breach. More muffled voices. Then Grant came on the line. Marcus, where exactly is this quarantine system? We can't locate it in the infrastructure diagrams. It's not in the diagrams because it was implemented as an emergency fix during that security incident 3 years ago. The board approved it as a temporary measure that became permanent. Look at the minutes from the emergency board meeting in August. Another pause. We're checking. Yes, here it is. Approved emergency security measures as proposed by Lou. But there are no technical specs. Because the board didn't want technical specs. They wanted the problem solved. I could hear the frustration in Grant's voice. Can you just tell us how to enable it? It should activate automatically. If it hasn't, then something in the configuration has been altered. Nothing's been changed, Grant insisted. I paused. Check the scheduled tasks on the security management server. There's a verification job that runs every 6 hours to confirm the quarantine system is active. A few moments passed. The task is there, but it's disabled. Who disabled it? I asked, already suspecting the answer. Grant's voice dropped. It was turned off during the security overhaul. We consolidated scheduled tasks to reduce system overhead. They had dismantled my security system piece by piece, not realizing how the components interacted. Now, they were dealing with the consequences. While Nexra's nightmare unfolded, I received a message on LinkedIn. Ella Hudson, CTO at Sentinel Security Group. Heard you might be available. We should talk. Sentinel was among the top security firms in the country. I'd followed their work for years and respected their approach. The timing couldn't have been better. We met for coffee that afternoon at a quiet cafe in Pike Place Market. Elaine was direct. Word travels fast in security circles. Nexra's situation is unfortunate. I sipped my drink. I don't know the details. I'm not involved anymore. She nodded. Of course. But I know your track record. 9 years without a successful breach. That's rare. Until now, I said. From what I hear, the breach occurred after significant changes to your architecture, changes you didn't implement. I didn't ask how she knew. The security world was tight-knit. Word spread. We're growing our financial sector team, she continued. We need someone who understands its complexities, someone who's built custom systems and can manage intricate infrastructures. The offer was generous, twice my Nexra salary, plus equity, and a team of 8 engineers reporting to me. The condition? I had to begin immediately. I should mention, I said, my severance includes a non-compete clause. Elaine smiled. Our legal team reviewed standard Nexra severance terms. The non-compete only restricts you from joining direct competitors in financial data services, not security consulting firms. We're not a rival to Nexra. If anything, we could be a vendor. That evening, while reviewing Sentinel's offer, my phone rang again. Nexra's main switchboard number. Hello. Marcus, it's Diane. Have you seen the news? I hadn't. I opened my laptop and checked major tech outlets. The headlines were everywhere. Nexra Labs confirms major data breach, client information compromised. Financial services firm Nexra suffers catastrophic security failure. Nexra stock drops 28% following confirmation of breach. How bad? I asked. Bad, Diane replied. The intruders accessed at least 40 client databases. Before we managed to fully shut down external access, the system descended into chaos. No one could figure out how to properly restore the security protocols. What's Grant saying? I asked. Grant's not saying anything, Diane replied. He's locked in back-to-back crisis meetings with the board. They've brought in an outside cybersecurity firm for incident response. An external team would now have to decipher my custom-built security architecture without any documentation or historical context. They'd figure out eventually, but not without delay. And during that delay, Nexra's reputation was being obliterated. "I'm sorry," I said sincerely. "I meant it, for everyone affected." "It's not your fault," Diane replied. "You tried to warn them." The next morning, I signed Sentinel's offer letter. By noon, I was seated in their downtown Seattle office, getting set up with new gear. My first assignment was to help design a post-breach recovery framework for financial institutions. That evening, I received one last text from Stephen Wright. "The board would like to discuss bringing you back. Name your terms." I didn't reply. Some bridges, once burned, are better left that way. Instead, I emailed Elaine my first draft of the recovery framework. The subject line read, "Preventing the next Nexra." 1 month after the breach, I was well settled into my new role at Sentinel when Bloomberg published an exposé titled "The Dismantling of Nexra: How Cutting Costs Compromised Security." The piece outlined how Nexra's new leadership had methodically weakened security protocols in favor of accelerated development timelines. Internal emails obtained by reporters showed Grant had disabled essential security systems, even after explicit warnings from the IT team. James was quoted anonymously, explaining how my tailored security infrastructure had been taken apart without proper comprehension. But the most damning discovery came from board meeting minutes. 3 years earlier, I had submitted a request for funding to document and transfer knowledge of the security systems. That request had been denied for 6 straight quarters, dismissed as non-essential administrative overhead. That same day, 3 of Nexra's largest clients publicly announced they were ending their contracts. Their press releases cited irreparable concerns about data protection and a complete loss of trust in Nexra's security oversight. I didn't have to watch the stock tickers to understand what was happening. LinkedIn painted the picture clearly. Nexra employees were updating their profiles en masse, signaling a mass departure. Even Grant Felon had updated his. His new title read, Strategic Technology Advisor. No company listed. His entire tenure at Nexra had lasted less than 3 months. At Sentinel, we began receiving inquiries from several former Nexra clients in need of security advisory support. During one call, a client CIO asked me, "Were you involved in Nexra's security systems?" "Yes," I answered plainly. "We thought so," he said. "That's why we're calling you first." I took no satisfaction in Nexra's collapse. It was a company I had helped build, and now hundreds of talented professionals were losing their jobs. Still, I felt a quiet vindication. Security was never just overhead. It was the bedrock. 6 months later, Sentinel's financial security division had expanded significantly. Many of our newest clients were former Nexra partners. Several of my former colleagues had joined us. James was now my lead security engineer, and Diane headed our client relations team. Nexra itself had been sold for a fraction of its previous valuation, bought out primarily for its client base and intellectual property. The Nexra name was retired. The breach had become a case study in business school lectures, a cautionary tale. I ran into Stephen Wright at a cybersecurity conference in Vancouver. After the day's panels, we found ourselves alone at the hotel bar. "No hard feelings?" he asked, raising his glass. "None," I replied honestly. "Business choices come with consequences, some heavier than others." He nodded. "For what it's worth, I pushed back on those changes. Got outvoted." "That's bored for you," I said. "Your new company seems to be doing well." "We are," I confirmed. Stephen finished his drink. "You know what's ironic? We're now paying Sentinel 3 times your old salary for security consulting." I offered a small smile. The cost of security always gets paid, either up front or after everything falls apart. After is always more expensive. As he stood to leave, Stephen added, "Grant landed at Verdun, still pushing that same move-fast philosophy." "Good luck to them," I said. Back in Seattle, I arrived at Sentinel's office the following Monday to find Elaine waiting with news. Verdun experienced a security event over the weekend. Their CISO is asking for urgent help. "Want to take the lead on this one?" she asked. I shook my head. "Send the junior team. They could use the experience." That afternoon, I finalized our updated client onboarding guide. Thorough, clear, and rigorously detailed. The headline section read, understanding the full security architecture, the foundation of trust. My father had been right about one thing. Job security isn't about your employer. It's about being the one who knows how to prevent disasters others don't even see coming.